Hi everyone, Tom Slavic. Welcome to TSPN's News for Today. And today is Monday, and Richard Forster, Supervisor District 1, is here. And how you doing, Richard?
Good. District 2, Tom.
All right.
Don't start that. District 2.
See, there are mistakes. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, tomorrow's agenda, and we have an agenda, Board of Supervisors meeting, and we're going to be going over the regular agenda. And Richard, do we want to start? First thing up, Kirkwood Meadows.
Right, Kirkwood Meadow Public Utility District. Michael Sharp will be in, and he wants to update us on relative to what's going on there in the Kirkwood community. I imagine a lot of this will have to do with the power that they ran up to Kirkwood. You know, that was a big project, and I think it's fully complete now, so I would imagine a lot of his discussion will be giving us an update on that. But they're real good. You know, Kirkwood is part of our county.
Right.
They're somewhat isolated.
The very top part of our county.
And they're somewhat isolated up there because they're so far up. But they still are an integral part of our county. They provide a lot of tax base to the county, and great facility. I mean, it's a world-renowned.
Great recreation area, and you know, a lot of the people, that's what they moved to Amador County for, is to be in this environment. I know I did, and so that's good. Now, that utility, has that lowered their costs for energy costs?
No, I don't think it lowers their. I don't think it lowers their costs, but I think it gives them stability and assurance that they'll pretty much as much assurance as you can nowadays. Assurance that they'll have power. Versus the former scenario where in the wintertime, even though they had devices up there and they had some storage capability for power, it wasn't a reliable source, wasn't clean. I think they were using diesel fuel before to run it, so this is 100% underground, out of sight, and really reliable source of energy for them.
Okay, great.
Okay, request for funding. This is a continued item that was brought to us at the last meeting, but this program was actually started over in Calaveras County by a person named Marianne Garamendi, and it had to do with the salmon project. And all this is about the eggs, starting the fish out from eggs, growing them up, then taking them to the hatchery and releasing them there. Tony Lynn brought this to the board. At the last meeting, the board had a lot of questions because even though this money is coming out of the fish and wildlife fees collected by Amador County, we still want to make sure it's used responsibly. And frankly, our board, at least members of our board, don't want it used for propaganda and things like that. The way Ms. Lynn described it, and she did present their lesson plans, is something I asked for. Let's make sure that what you're going to teach is something that we can support, because frankly nowadays in the school system and in some places you never know if what they're teaching is actually reality or if they're leaving things out of history. Well, it looks like this is a very well-rounded lesson plan. For me, it fits my view of what should be going on in the schools, and she is trying to take this countywide to all of the schools too. So she teaches about the fish, but she also teaches about wildlife, about the whole, looking at the lesson plan, just this one part is about fish, the fish and the rivers and growing those fish, but the money is to purchase the coolers for each school and converting them to hold fish, so they can raise the salmon from eggs to fingerlings. That'd be about $500 per cooler, and then about $300 per school for field trips to the Comanche Fish Hatchery. It's a pretty impressive lesson plan looking at it, and they have some of the instructional pages that'll go to the students to ask them questions. So I think it's a great lesson plan. This one goes from everything to what the students should know about, what the students should be able to compare and contrast to different things. So
it sounds pretty cool. I need to be educated. Are salmon native to the rivers up here? To probably the McCollum?
Yeah,
It is. Okay.
So anyway, the whole lesson plan goes on the reproduction, an essential part of the life cycle, and that's kind of what her lesson is going to be centered on, from where the money will go, the life cycle. But then eggs and seeds is 2, 3 is growth and metamorphosis, 4 is reproduction needs, a monarch story, and then 5 is human uses, plant and animal reproduction. I guess that's the one that she would actually be concentrating on for this portion of it. So it fit my needs, what I need to know about the program, and it looks like a very good program to explain to students, get them interested in the ecology, biology, reproduction, the whole 9 yards. So
okay.
I'm
satisfied.
That'll
be discussed.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we have a letter that I think this is coming from our chairman, that he wants to file an objection letter for the Forster Firs Forest Health and Fuels Reduction Environmental Assessment, or the EA, on the Amador Ranger District of El Dorado National Forest. So we have to, if we're going to do this, we have to file an objection letter timely so that we have standing. The interesting part here, and I need a lot more discussion on this because I only have the 1 page, and I don't like this when we approach an item where I get 1 page and don't really understand. It doesn't give you an understanding really of why we're doing this, the full scope of it.
Can you briefly tell us what the project is?
Well, what it says is that, and I think John Hoffman, our natural resources consultant, probably helped in this because it sounds like his nomenclature, but it is over their Forster Firs environmental assessment, and what they're worried about, I guess, is that it says, we recognize issues may arise through the objection process, which have the potential to modify the alternatives that they're proposing. So it sounds like we're filing a potential objection in case someone files an objection, so that we have standing to address that.
Okay.
But it also says that if there are no objections filed by others, then we'll withdraw our objection letter.
Okay. You won't object to the non-objection?
We won't object if no one objects. So what they're afraid of, I think, is that
no, you don't want to. People. So it sounds like it's laying some legal groundwork for you to be able to weigh in on something.
Right. And what they're afraid of is that people will come in and try to substantially change the decision made by our forest supervisor, Lawrence Crabtree. Okay. And this is the process you have to go through. There's just no other way. This letter is actually addressed to Randy Moore, who is the regional forester. And we know Randy Moore pretty well, and he's got to deal with the bureaucracy with U.S. Forest Service and all the lawsuits that get filed against them. You know, people want the U.S. Forest Service to protect the environment, to protect the trees, to do fire management, but then all these special interest groups, all they do is sue the U.S. Forest Service because they want it done their way, instead of letting them do predominantly the right thing in a lot of cases. It's disheartening to see that the disingenuousness of a lot of these groups that come in. For instance, when there's a massive fire, instead of letting Forest Service come in and clean it up and process a lot of that timber that's been killed, people sue, these special interest groups sue, so that timber just has to lay there. And predominantly in the power fire, when that happened years and years ago in Amador County, the lawsuits went on and on, where all of that,
finally the timber was worthless.
Right, all of that timber on U.S. Forest Service ground just laid there and went to waste.
Right, I think it has to be harvested within 2 years or something.
Basically, that's right. The first year, I think you lose 40% of the value.
Wow.
Second year, you lose like an additional 30% of the value. After 2 years, basically, there's not much left there for them to generate any revenue from.
Okay.
But you know, Forest Service could generate a significant amount of revenue by selling that timber that will die anyway, and then money would be generated to replant. Unfortunately, you get groups like the John Muir Society that come in and sue regardless. Just crazy.
Okay.
To me, that's the environmental part of regenerating the ground, but the other part is the economic part. So to see that happen, and unfortunately we're stuck in this cycle in the United States of litigious society. So But a lot of the environmental groups have figured it out too. This is the way we're going to stop it. Okay.
Okay.
Proposed resurfacing of Fiddletown tennis courts. This isn't a big item. It shouldn't take very long because the Rotary Club of Plymouth Foothills is what they're called,
Right.
wants to come in and do a significant amount of work here. Looks like about $18,000.
Okay.
So why wouldn't we
They
want
want to donate that work.
Right. Why wouldn't we want that to happen? It has been done before. There's a template here, a template agreement that John Hopkins, our General Services Director, put in. The agreement covers everything from liability to insurance to workers' comp, all those things, and the different standards that we're required to go by. We have to, if any of this is done with outside labor, then you're subject to prevailing wage. Well, it sounds like predominantly it's going to be done by Plymouth Foothills Rotary, so that is great, and I support that. I don't think this should take more than about 2 minutes to handle, but we'll see.
Okay. All right.
Next up, we have same kind of issue. It's a little bit bigger scope, though. ACRA has come in, and the issue here is Pioneer Park has kind of been out there on its own. County is trying to make the fixes.
And we've got just a few seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and tell
Okay.
everybody that we'll be right back, and then we'll get into this rotary door at Pioneer Park that needs to be fixed. So stay with us right here on TSPN.
You're watching Amador County's local television network,